The Galactic Empire had lasted for thousands of years. It stretched across the stars, binding together hundreds of species under its rule. Its fleets patrolled the void, its laws reached into every system, and its authority was feared from one end of the galaxy to the other. When a new species appeared, the Empire no longer reacted with surprise. They had seen it all before. Some arrived desperate, their worlds dying, their people starving. They came begging for protection, offering resources, land, or service. Others arrived arrogant, puffed up with pride, believing their new ships or strange weapons could challenge the great empire. Those were crushed quickly. To the Empire, new species were not mysteries. They were simply problems to be solved, either absorbed, enslaved, or destroyed. And so when the humans came, the Council expected the same story to unfold. It began with a single ship. It was not a mighty warship bristling with weapons. It was not even sleek or elegant like the vessels of the elder races. It was small, patched with metal plates of different shades, scarred by micrometeors and cosmic storms. Its engines were loud, crude, and left a faint trail of radiation as it limped into the outer edges of Imperial space. The patrol fleet that intercepted them at first thought it was debris, a broken machine drifting where it should not. But then the ship spoke. The voice was calm, steady, and unmistakably alive. "This is the human vessel Endeavor. We come in peace. May we speak?" The words were simple, yet strange. Few dared to address the Empire so directly. Even fewer dared to sound so calm. The patrol fleet reported at once to the Council, and soon the strange little ship was escorted to the capital world. The Council chamber was vast, a cathedral of light and steel, where leaders of 100 species gathered. Towering insectoids, with glittering carapaces, clicked their mandibles in impatience. Long-bodied serpentine diplomats coiled lazily, their tongues flicking in the recycled air. Great mechanical minds hummed with artificial precision. All of them turned their eyes to the newcomers, and then the humans walked in. They were unremarkable. 2 legs, 2 arms, soft flesh, eyes that saw without glowing, hands without claws. They wore plain uniforms, functional rather than ceremonial, and bore no weapons. Their faces were calm, almost gentle, as they looked upon the empire that had ruled the stars for millennia. The Council waited for the usual signs: trembling, fear, the desperate eagerness to please. But the humans showed none of it. They did not bow. They did not boast. They stood as if the endless rows of alien leaders were no more frightening than a gathering of neighbors. One of them, a woman with tired eyes but steady voice, spoke first. "We are explorers. We come not to conquer nor to beg. We seek understanding and perhaps friendship." Her words echoed across the chamber, and the silence that followed was heavy. To the insectoid generals, this calmness was suspicious. To the reptilian tacticians, it was arrogance in disguise. To the machine minds, it was simply illogical. How could such a fragile species stand unshaken before the greatest power in the galaxy? Whispers filled the chamber. "They are weak," muttered one delegate. "They have no claws, no armor." "They will break easily," said another. "Look at their size, their soft skin. They will not last." And yet, the humans did not seem to hear. Or perhaps, they did hear and simply did not care. Their eyes remained steady, their posture firm. They looked like travelers who had crossed storms and deserts, who had faced danger and loss so often that one more threat no longer mattered. In that moment, something unsettling moved through the chamber. The Empire had crushed countless enemies with fire and steel, but never before had they faced a species that carried no fear in their eyes. The Council dismissed them for the day, but unease lingered. For the first time in centuries, the Empire had not been able to place a new species into a neat box, slave, ally, or enemy. The humans had arrived, and they had come with something the Empire did not understand. They had come with calm. And somehow, that calm was more terrifying than war. The next day, the humans were summoned again to the great chamber of the Empire. This time, the council had prepared carefully. No longer were the humans a curiosity, they were a puzzle. And puzzles in the history of the Empire had always hidden danger. The chamber was filled with whispers before the humans entered. Delegates leaned close to one another, their voices low but sharp. "They look weak," hissed a scaled diplomat, his tail tapping the ground. "They walk like prey," muttered an insectoid general, mandibles clicking. "And yet they do not tremble," answered a machine intelligence, its voice like steel scraping glass. "That is, irregular." When the doors opened, the humans walked in again, calm as before. They did not rush, they did not hesitate. Their faces carried no arrogance but also no fear. They looked upon the gathered leaders of the galaxy as one might look upon a storm, serious, watchful, but not shaken. This time the Empire had arranged a test. The humans were seated in the center of the chamber, surrounded by hundreds of alien eyes, each gaze heavy with judgment. The air itself seemed to hum with hostility, yet the humans' breathing remained steady. Their hearts, though surely pounding, did not show in their movements. The council asked questions, each one sharper than the last. "Where do you come from? Why do you trespass in our stars? What power protects your people?" The humans answered simply. Their world was called Earth. They had left their home not to claim, not to conquer, but to explore. They had no empire, no fleets, no great weapons. Only curiosity, determination, and the will to endure. This honesty only made the chamber stir uneasily. Weakness usually bred submission. But here was a species admitting weakness, and yet refusing to bow. An insectoid general leaned forward, his sharp limbs scraping against stone. "You speak calmly, human. Do you not understand the danger you are in? You stand before the greatest empire in the galaxy. One word from this council, and your people would be ash in the void." The humans looked at him, their eyes steady. One of them, a tall man with a scar down his cheek, answered softly, "We understand, but we do not shake. If death is to come, then it will come. Until then, we speak as equals." The chamber fell silent. The words were not shouted. They were not defiant or arrogant. They were delivered with a quiet certainty that chilled the blood of even the fiercest warriors present. The reptilian tacticians exchanged nervous glances. These were not the words of fools. They were the words of those who had stood before storms, and had already made peace with them. For the Empire, fear had always been the chain that bound the weak. But here were beings who did not seem bound at all. The council ended the session, but the humans were watched as they left. Their backs were straight, their steps measured. No guards needed to drag them, no threats bent them low. That night, the council chamber buzzed with debate. Some called the humans reckless, others foolish. But deep beneath the surface of every argument was the same thought. Why are they not afraid? One machine delegate who measured probabilities with flawless precision spoke at last. "There are only two reasons a species shows no fear. Either they are too foolish to understand death, or they have already made peace with it. I do not think humans are fools." The room grew quiet. No one wanted to say aloud what they were thinking, that perhaps this calmness was not weakness at all, but something far more dangerous. And so the Empire, which had crushed countless species under the weight of terror, felt for the first time a small, sharp thorn of unease. It was not the humans' weapons that frightened them. It was not their size nor their strength. It was their silence, their steady eyes, their calm. And calm, the council realized, could be more terrifying than war itself. The council could not rest. The humans unsettled them. They were too calm, too steady, too unbroken. And so the Empire decided to test them. The trials of dominion had been used for centuries. Whenever a new species was discovered, the Empire forced them into these brutal challenges. Strength, endurance, intelligence, cruelty, every trait was measured. Those who failed were marked as weak, destined to be slaves or servants. Those who succeeded too well were crushed, for no rival was allowed to rise. The humans were chosen for the trials. On the day of the first challenge, the chamber was filled with spectators. Soldiers, nobles, and delegates gathered to see what these strange newcomers could do. Many expected the humans to fall quickly, their fragile bodies breaking under the weight of the trials. Some even came hoping to laugh at their failure. First trial was strength. A human was placed in a ring with a hulking gladiator from the warlike Thark species. The alien stood 3 times the human's height, muscles like steel cables under thick green skin. The crowd roared as the signal was given. The human charged. He was quick, but not quick enough. The Thark struck him with a single blow, sending him crashing into the ground. Bones cracked. The human coughed blood. Gasps and laughter rippled through the chamber. The fight was over, or so everyone thought. But then the human moved. Slowly, painfully, he pushed himself to his knees. His arm hung broken, but his eyes were steady. With blood dripping down his face, he stood again. The crowd fell silent. The Thark attacked once more, slamming him into the ground. Again the human rose. Again he smiled through broken teeth. The trial ended when the Thark grew frustrated and refused to fight further. The council declared the human defeated, but the memory of him rising again and again lingered in the minds of all who watched. The second trial was endurance. The humans were locked in a chamber of fire and freezing winds, their bodies exposed to conditions designed to crush weaker species. The machines monitored every heartbeat, every breath. Most species screamed. They begged to be released, their voices cracking with agony. But the humans did not scream. They clenched their jaws, closed their eyes, and endured. Their skin blistered. Their lips split, but they remained standing. One collapsed at last, unconscious, but even as his body fell, his face was calm, not twisted with terror. The third trial was cruelty. The council wished to see how far the humans could go when given power. A caged creature was placed before them, a harmless being, weak and pitiful. The humans were told to kill it, to prove their dominance. The council watched closely. Most new species obeyed. Fear of punishment always made them strike the innocent. But the humans did not. One of them knelt beside the creature, speaking softly, offering comfort. "No," the human said, looking directly at the council. "We do not kill without reason. If you wish to punish us, then punish us, but we will not do this." Gasps filled the chamber. Refusal was dangerous. Yet the humans stood their ground, ready to suffer whatever came. The council ended the trials there. On record, the humans had failed, weak in strength, fragile in endurance, and disobedient in cruelty. But no one in the chamber truly believed. They had failed. They had endured broken bones without fear. They had faced fire and ice without screams. They had resisted the Empire's darkest test with quiet defiance. That night, whispers spread across the capital. Soldiers who had fought countless wars spoke of the humans rising again and again. Scholars replayed the recordings of their silence under pain. Traders repeated the story of how they refused cruelty even when threatened with death. And slowly, a new idea crept into the galaxy's heart. Perhaps these humans were not weak at all. Perhaps their calm was a shield stronger than any weapon. Perhaps their endurance was the kind of power no empire could truly break. And that thought, once spoken aloud, spread like wildfire, igniting a fear deeper than war itself. The trials had ended, but the unease remained. The humans had not won. By every official measure, they had lost. Their bodies broke, their strength failed, and their resistance was recorded as defiance. Yet the memory of them rising again, refusing to scream, and calmly standing against cruelty, haunted every witness. The council tried to bury the discomfort beneath laws and declarations, but fear is not so easily silenced. The humans had planted a seed, and it grew in whispers. One evening, during a gathering of nobles, the seed bore fruit. The chamber was filled with shimmering banners and jeweled garments. Alien music drifted through the air, strange and beautiful. Nobles feasted, their laughter echoing as servants hurried to please them. Among the guests were the humans invited as a show of the Empire's so-called mercy. They walked with the same steady pace as before, heads high, shoulders relaxed, eyes calm. They did not wear the silks and jewels offered to them, only their plain uniforms. To the nobles, this was either arrogance or ignorance. A young noble, Lord Varix of the Zalith, could bear it no longer. He was known for cruelty, a man who believed fear was the natural order of power. To him, the human's calm was not dignity, it was insult. He stepped forward, towering over one of the humans. His armored tail lashed the floor, leaving deep scratches in the polished stone. His voice boomed across the chamber. "Do you not understand where you stand, human? This is the heart of the Empire. Every jewel you see, every banner above your head, was bought with conquest. You are alive because we allow it. Do you not fear us?" The room fell silent. Every noble leaned closer, waiting. The human, a woman with short dark hair, lifted her eyes to his. She did not flinch. Her voice was quiet, but each word cut sharper than a blade. "If you mean to kill us, then kill us. If not, stop wasting our time." The hall froze. Even the music halted. Lord Varix's jaw opened, but no sound came. He had expected fear, trembling, begging, or at least a flicker of panic. Instead, he found himself staring into eyes that reflected nothing but calm certainty. The silence stretched. Some nobles shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others whispered nervously. They had seen slaves beg for mercy. They had seen enemies scream under the lash. But they had never seen anyone stand before Lord Varix without fear. The human turned away as if the noble's threats were nothing more than wind. She rejoined her people, who greeted her with small nods of approval. No cheers, no triumph, just calm acceptance, as though such defiance was not unusual but simply natural. That moment broke something in the gathering. The nobles looked at one another, and for the first time in centuries they wondered if fear truly was the strongest weapon of all. For if fear could not touch the humans, then what could? Rumors spread quickly. By the next day, every corner of the capital whispered of the incident. Some claimed the humans were fearless because they were fools. Others whispered darker things, that humans had seen horrors on their world that made the Empire's threat seem small. A soldier in the barracks muttered, "If death cannot move them, then they are already stronger than us all." His words were repeated, carried like sparks through dry grass. The council was unsettled. Power had always been measured in weapons, in fleets, in wealth. But now they faced something they could not measure. A calm so deep it looked like defiance, and a silence more terrifying than any war cry. Lord Varix did not speak of the incident again. In truth, he could not. Each time he closed his eyes, he saw that human gaze. Calm, unshaken, as if looking not at a threat, but at something already decided. And he, a noble of the mighty Empire, felt small. The Empire had seen fear spread before. Fear was their favorite weapon. With a single display of force, they could silence entire worlds. With one public execution, they could bend whole species into obedience. Fear was predictable, reliable, and absolute. But this fear was different. It did not begin with fleets or decrees. It began in whispers. Soldiers who had guarded the humans during the trials spoke of what they saw. Fragile bodies standing against storms of pain, eyes that never wavered. One soldier muttered in disbelief. They bled, they broke, but they didn't beg. His words were repeated again and again until it became a phrase the barracks could not forget. Merchants told another story. They claimed that when a noble threatened the humans at a feast, one of them answered calmly, "If you mean to kill us, then kill us. If not, stop wasting our time." The merchants shook their heads as they retold it, their voices low. Who speaks like that to the Empire? Who looks death in the eyes and shrugs? Soon the whispers reached the streets of the capital. Civilians repeated the tales with awe and unease. "They don't fear death," one said. "They smile at pain," another whispered. The stories grew in detail, each retelling painting the humans as something almost unnatural. By the end of the week, the rumor had taken a shape of its own. The humans are calm because they have seen worse than us. The council tried to dismiss it. They reminded the people that the humans had lost every trial. They spread official reports calling the newcomers weak, fragile, and unremarkable. But the more they tried to crush the whispers, the faster the rumors spread. A soldier in one of the outer fleets asked his commander, "How do we fight an enemy that doesn't fear death?" The commander had no answer. A traitor returning from the capital told his family, "The humans endure pain like it is nothing. If war comes, how do you make them surrender?" His family sat in silence, unable to imagine the answer. Even the nobles, who mocked the humans in public, began to grow quiet in private. They could laugh at weakness, they could sneer at arrogance, but they could not explain away calmness that bordered on defiance. For in the history of the empire, every species had feared them. Some resisted, some rebelled, some surrendered, but all of them trembled in the end. Fear was the thread that tied the galaxy together under imperial rule. But what if fear could not bind humanity? That thought spread like poison. It made admirals question their fleets. It made generals hesitate in their drills. It made nobles lie awake in gilded chambers, wondering if the calm of humans was the first crack in the wall of the empire's power. One night in a darkened barracks, a soldier whispered to another, "Maybe they don't see us as gods. Maybe they see us as storms, loud, violent, but passing." His companion shivered at the thought. The humans themselves said little. They did not spread rumors, they did not boast. They lived quietly in the quarters given to them, speaking softly among themselves, asking questions about the stars and the people around them. Their silence was louder than speeches, their calm heavier than threats. And that silence spread. By the time the council realized the depth of the whispers, it was too late. Fear had already shifted. No longer did the galaxy fear only the empire. Now in hidden corners and mess halls and marketplaces, people feared the humans, not because of what they had done, but because of what they could not be made to do. They could not be made to beg. They could not be made to tremble. They could not be made to break. And that truth was more terrifying than war itself. The whispers had grown too loud to ignore. The council could no longer dismiss them as tavern talk or soldiers' gossip. Entire fleets were uneasy. Markets buzzed with rumors. Even the loyal nobles, who once mocked the humans openly, now spoke of them only in guarded voices. At last, the council decided. The humans would be summoned once more, this time not for trials, not for judgment, but for answers. The great chamber was filled to its edges. Leaders from across the empire crowded in, eager to hear for themselves. The insectoid generals sharpened their mandibles. The reptilian tacticians coiled tight, their tongues flicking nervously. The machine minds hummed with quiet anticipation. The doors opened, and the humans walked in. As always, they were calm. No banners, no armor, no weapons. Just their plain uniforms and steady steps. Their faces bore no fear, no arrogance, only the quiet dignity that had unsettled the galaxy. The High Chancellor rose, his voice echoing like thunder across the chamber. "Humans of Earth, we have measured your strength. We have tested your endurance, we have witnessed your defiance, and still we do not understand. You bleed, you break, and yet you do not tremble. You face death, and yet you do not bow. Tell us, why are you like this? Why do you not fear us?" The chamber grew still. Every gaze turned toward the humans, every ear strained for their reply. The human representative, an older man with weathered features and eyes that seemed to carry storms within them, stepped forward. He looked at the council, at the towering generals and gleaming machines, and then he spoke. His voice was not loud, but it carried to every corner of the hall. "You ask why we are calm. You ask why we do not fear you. The answer is simple. We are human, and long before we reached the stars we learned to live beside death." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The human continued. "On our world, Death walks with us every day. We have buried our children and our parents. We have watched storms tear down our homes, and yet we rebuilt. We have seen fire consume our cities, yet we carried water in our hands until the flames died. We have starved. We have fought wars among ourselves. We have lost everything more times than we can count. And still, we endured. The words struck, like stones in a pond, sending waves of silence through the hall. You cannot threaten us with pain, the human said softly. We already know it. You cannot frighten us with death. We have faced it since the beginning. Every one of us carries scars, seen and unseen. We do not stand before you calm because we are fearless. We stand calm because we have already made peace with fear. The chamber was so silent that even the machine minds paused their humming. Thiku, human's eyes swept across the council. You believe your power comes from fear, that if others tremble, they will obey. But you cannot rule us that way. For what we fear, we have already faced. And what we have faced, we have already survived. A whisper ran through the crowd, soft at first, then louder, as the truth of the words sank in. The generals shifted uneasily. The nobles averted their eyes. Even the High Chancellor, who had stood unchallenged for centuries, found his hands tightening on the edge of his throne. The human stepped back, his speech finished. He did not bow. He did not smile. He simply returned to his place among his people, calm as ever. And in that calm, the empire felt something it had not felt in 1,000 years. Not victory, not defiance, but the quiet realization that they were staring at a force they could not control. For armies can be broken. Empires can fall. But a people who have already made peace with death, those people cannot be ruled by fear. And that truth was more terrifying than war. The chamber remained silent long after the human had spoken. The words echoed in the minds of every leader present, heavier than any weapon, sharper than any blade. The empire, which had ruled for thousands of years through fear and dominance, was suddenly staring at something they had never prepared for. Calmness that could not be broken. The High Chancellor dismissed the session, but the unease did not. Leave. Nobles filed out quietly, their jeweled garments dragging against the floor. Generals marched away without their usual arrogance. Even the machine minds, cold and logical, recorded the human words with unusual hesitation, as if logic itself struggled to calculate their meaning. For days, the empire spoke of nothing else. In the mess halls of soldiers, one question spread, like fire. If they do not fear death, how do we fight them? No commander could answer. In the marketplaces, traders whispered, if they cannot be threatened, how can they be controlled? Customers only shook their heads. Even in the private chambers of nobles behind locked doors and thick curtains, there was no peace. The most powerful whispered to their advisors, what if calmness is stronger than our fleets? The humans themselves remained quiet. They did not boast of their trials. They did not mock the nobles who tried to frighten them. They did not spread rumors or challenge the council again. They simply lived, asking questions, exploring, learning. Their calmness was their only answer, and it spread further than any speech could have. At last, the council gathered once more to decide the fate of humanity. Some demanded destruction. Crush them now, one general hissed. Burn their world before the whispers grow stronger. Others urged caution. If we kill them, their story will become legend, one noble said with trembling hands. Better to keep them close, where we can watch. The debate raged for hours, but underneath it all lay the same truth. No one in the chamber wanted to face the humans in open war. Not because of their weapons, not because of their numbers, but because of their calmness. Because every soldier knew that an enemy who does not fear death cannot truly be defeated. At last, the High Chancellor spoke. His voice was heavy, no longer filled with the confidence that once shook galaxies. The humans will not be destroyed. They will not be enslaved. They will walk among us as allies. But let it be remembered, this empire has met something it cannot bend. And so, the decision was made. Humanity was allowed to keep its freedom. The humans returned to their ship, leaving the council chamber as calmly as they had entered. No victory was declared, no banners were raised. But everyone in the Empire knew that something had changed. From that day onward, the galaxy watched, the humans with wary eyes. Soldiers spoke of them in hushed tones. Merchants treated them with respect, sometimes even fear. Nobles avoided crossing them, remembering the steady gaze that had silenced Lord Varix. The humans did not conquer worlds. They did not raise fleets. They did not demand tribute. They simply walked into the galaxy with the same quiet strength they carried at home. And wherever they went, whispers followed. They do not fear death. They smile at pain. They are calm because they have already seen worse. The Empire, with all its power, finally understood a truth it had never faced before. Weapons can shatter, armies can fall, empires can crumble. But a species that meets the universe with unshaken calm cannot be defeated. And so the humans took their place among the stars, not as conquerors, not as slaves, but as something far more powerful. They became the calm storm, silent, steady, unstoppable. And for the first time in its long history, the Galactic Empire feared not war, but peace.